Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion picture you're about to see contains scenes so terrifying, the public must be given grave warning.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am your host, Sewer Dweller. And boy, do we have a movie for you this week. I decided, it was really hard to find a Thanksgiving movie that nobody has done before or won't be doing this year. Everybody does Thanksgiving. Everybody does. I'm just drawing a blank because there's a really good one from the 80s that everybody does. So I decided to do Amityville Thanksgiving. I know the other podcast on the I'm just drawing a blank. I just got done watching this movie and I'm drained. I am fucking drained from this movie. But we'll get to that here shortly. But they've done a lot of Amityville movies on this show, and I've seen a lot of Amityville movies because I do like me a good cheesy, corny horror movie. But we'll get to we'll get to this one here, of course, after the break. I hope everyone's having a great holiday season. Today was, for a lot of people, today is the last day either of work until after Thanksgiving or school. I know my kid today was my son's last day of school before Thanksgiving. He will not go back till the Monday after Thanksgiving, so he's got about the next 10 days off, and he's excited. He's out there playing video games right now while I record this. So, but I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Let's get that out of the way now. Hope everyone gets their fill of everyone gets their fill of turkey and mashed potatoes and stuffing, pumpkin pie, all the goodies. But before we get into this week's movie, again, we are doing Amityville Thanksgiving. And we are going to do the usual, the weekly roundup of haunt industry news and horror movie news. Again, there's still quite a bit of haunt news coming out because now that the season's over. But it's nothing as much as we were getting about a month ago. So, like I said, over the next couple of months, you'll see the amount of haunt industry news go down as the horror movie news expands. At least until early to midsummer is usually when the haunt news starts picking up again. Hello, Pile. Hello. Haunts, we do have some haunts coming up. A lot of haunts we talked about them last week about which haunts are doing Christmas haunts. Hell's Dungeon, of course, will be doing our Christmas haunt on the 13th and the 14th of December. The 13th is what we call Cinema Night, being that it is Friday the 13th. A lot of people will be dressed up as our favorite cinematic characters. Last year when we did Cinema Night, I actually was Captain Spaulding from House of a Thousand Corpses, who is one of my favorite characters of all time. To me, he is the king of clowns, as I like to call him. Especially when I'm playing one of my clown characters. He is the king of clowns. Um, and I know there's a bunch more in this area that are doing Christmas haunts. So definitely keep a lookout in your area. Support the haunt industry, especially this time of year. You're not going to get as many customers as you would at Halloween time. But I'll tell you right now, last year was the first time I did a haunt, Christmas haunt, and I had a fucking blast. And all I had a blast doing the Christmas haunt. And doing characters that are like a lot more outside of my comfort zone than like I said, outside of my comfort zone that I'm used to. I played Sweet Tooth the Elf. Basically, I had cookie cutters on my face that were basically supposed to have been burned into my face. Um, and I didn't have my traditional elf costume on. I had the ears and everything, but I had a pair of onesie pair of pajamas, and my fat ass in a onesie was pretty fucking funny. So if you want to check it out, you want to see it, check out Hell's Dungeon, or you can even check out my page, my TikTok. I have a couple of videos from last year on my TikTok. Sewer Dweller, I believe it's still Sewer Dweller. Um, and 1 second. Sorry, had a question. I had to answer real quick. Trying to see what my TikTok is. And too loud. I can never remember the name of any of my stuff. It is Sewer Dweller. It is just SEWARDWELLER. You can go there, check it out, see me in my onesie from last year. And it's pretty funny. Like I said, it was a onesie pair of pajamas. Really, like I said, it's just funny to see a fat guy in onesie, in all honesty. But we're gonna get ready to talk some haunt industry. Sorry, guys, 1 second. But we're gonna get to the haunt news real quick. Let's see. So first off, we're gonna start in Collingswood, New Jersey. The Collingswood Haunted Hayride closed. Wait, never mind. This is last week's. Hold on 1 second. There's the new one. Give me 1 second. I love Dead Air, don't you guys? But so I think a lot of people already know about this, but in an announcement this Monday, November 18th, Doug Sheldon and Chris Hartley announced the closure of Fear Expo and HauntCon. They did put a letter up on their page. Trying to see something real quick, see if we're so on their webpage they made a post. I'm trying to see, somebody might be coming on to talk about this with me real quick. Dear valued vendors and customers, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Fear Expo and HauntCon. After much consideration and due to unforeseen health circumstances, we have made the difficult decision to prioritize our well being and focus on spending more time with our families. Since 2022, it has been an honor to be part of your haunt season and to connect with such a passionate and dedicated community. We deeply value the friendships and partnerships we've formed along the way. We do understand that this news may come as a surprise and apologize for any inconvenience it may cause. We sincerely appreciate your understanding and support during this time. Thank you for being part of our journey. Um, Sincerely, Doug Sheldon and Chris Hartley, co-founders of Fear Expo. So yeah, I've never personally been to Beer Expo. I can't say how fun it is. But they said the decision to cancel the trade show was due to unforeseen health circumstances. And here we go. Ladies and
Personally
gentlemen,
been to
welcome Kyle Hazard
Beer Expo.
to the show.
So I can't.
Well, hello, hello.
Hello and welcome. I figured, like I said in the messages, you might know a little more about this than I do. I've never been to Fear Expo. Um, I've heard about it. I've never really looked into it though.
Well, you got Fear Expo and you got HauntCon. HauntCon at one point was in Louisiana, and when they decided that they were going to do a couple of things, they kind of combined it, Fear Expo and HauntCon all together at some point underneath Doug.
Okay.
And last year it was in Kentucky, I do believe. And when it was down in Kentucky, it just seemed like it was going to be okay. We'll see what's going on and this and that. I know one of the people that we work with, Wicked FX, got one of the awards from Fear Expo last year as a rising vendor, and they were really excited to try getting everything going up and getting ready for this year. And unfortunately, with the news, that's not going to happen.
Of course,
But
yeah.
Unfortunately, there is kind of a feeling between haunt conventions, and when it comes down to haunt conventions, they try to put on the best shows. You got one that's Midwest Haunters Convention. You got one that's down in Texas. You got East Coast. You got the big one that is Trans World. So when it comes down to these conventions, they're always going to compete for many different things.
Yeah, and now they're actually it's one of the stories I'm going to talk to about as well is down in IAPA, down in Orlando. They're actually that's the big, amusement park,
Mm-hmm.
all the new rides, all the new like arcade games and that. Now there's a haunt section of IAPA this year. That just what do you call it? Distorted or Distortions is down there, I think. Distortions Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that, So yeah, it's expanding because the haunt industry itself is expanding.
Which
Um, Good.
which is very exciting to hear that you're adding the haunt industry. Very very is a big group, but to be able to add it into something like that, you know what? It gets our attention even more.
Yeah, because that's like the big dogs. That's that's where Cedar Fair gets their stuff. That's where RMC Coasters is, showing the new they're showing the new coasters they're bringing out, that they're putting into these new theme parks and that and the new technology they're revealing and things. This is basic IAPA's kind of like your Comic-Con for coaster nerds and theme park nerds and that. And the fact that they're adding, like you said, haunt stuff, like a whole wing of the convention is now haunt stuff, is really exciting, and hopefully it can keep on going like this. I do know that they said it was for unforeseen health circumstances. So do we know if one of them's sick or? I know it's not our business, but
Honestly, there is a few rumors, but the no one's been able to confirm on my end who's
yeah,
sick or what's all going on. Uh, I'm not going to go and name who might be sick. I have
Yeah,
my
that
theories, but
yeah, we
we
don't want
we
to do that
wish
without.
no, we absolutely want to wish them the best no matter whatever is going on,
Yeah, absolutely.
because you've taken your time, you've put your time, resources, and effort into something, and to find out that you're not able to do it because of health risks, it's never a good story there.
No, it really isn't, especially for something as big as this, because it takes a lot of time to put a convention together. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money. Um, because I'm a big horror movie enthusiast, going to their conventions and things like that, and there's just so much that goes into the planning and everything. And I know from what I've read about this one is that it did start as a virtual event during the pandemic in 2020. And then they held their first Fear Expo, held in-person trade show events since 2022, and then I guess last year they added a HauntCon in.
Yeah,
Um,
when it was the virtual, unfortunately, a lot of people were not so thrilled about it because your order couldn't just go to the vendor. Your order had to
yeah,
go through the site, then through the uh, expo or Fear Expo, and then had to go through the vendor that way.
yeah. So basically, you had like three middlemen almost before you could actually order your product and hope to God you get it.
Yeah, and there was so many questions of why this was being done like this. Well, the reason is because someone told me that if you go and just let it go from the site straight to the vendor, you're not getting yourself out there as far as you could. So being able to do it like this can keep the flow of people coming to the Fear Expo or the Haunt Con.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it's sad to see. It's always sad to see, any of the haunts that are having to close their doors. Like we're gonna talk about Ghoul Brothers here in a minute. And I know I think they actually officially had to shut their doors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they were doing they were hoping to raise the money to keep their place open, or be able to stay where they are. But I think at the end of the day, it's really up to the landlords versus. I don't like I said, I don't know their whole situation. I know they were being put out of the place they were at.
Right. And it might be a possibility that they can move, but the
Yeah,
question is, are you going to keep it underneath the same name or are you going to move it and start a new name?
yeah, and all the money it's going to cost them to move everything, to take everything down,
Hmm.
put it in storage until they find somewhere.
At some point, it's sometimes an easier thing to sell what you got, take the money, what you can, and put it towards something and start a little smaller. That's been done previously to other haunts.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately the nature of the industry. But Kyle, did you want to stay on for the rest of Haunt News, or do you want to go ahead and hop off?
It's up to you, my dear friend. This is your show. I just happened
Well,
to pop in.
I I've said like I've told Raz before. Anybody's welcome on this show. I'm not picky. I won't make you watch the movie. Trust me, this movie. I am fucking worn out from this movie. I just got done watching it before I jumped on, and oh my god, I'm worn out.
Maybe one shot, two shot to get you through the credits.
Possibly, it's very possible. My aunt just got back from the Caribbean, and she brought me some rum from the motherland. So
Yeah,
this this it,
I'll stay for the news. Absolutely.
okay, cool. So we just talked about it. IAPA Expo 2024. It's taking
Mhm.
place. It's actually ongoing right now in Orlando, Florida, with education taking place between the 18th and the 21st, which was yesterday. And the show floor it will be open from the 19th until today, apparently. So I'm a little late for this one. Thought they usually ran through the weekend, honestly. But like I said, they actually added in the haunt stuff. New for IAPA this year is Haunting Grounds area, featuring Halloween related exhibitors. The participating exhibitors include Dogwood Entertainment, Distortions Unlimited, Best Halloween, When Hinges Creek, Cyclone Signs, Blue Lizard Production Company, Nethercraft Panels, Resurrect Costumes, Fearworm, and the Pineapple Agency. Um, and on top of that, they actually do have a haunted house there that you can go and see the props and that in action. I know, like when you go to Transworld, at least from the videos that I've seen at Transworld, you actually do get to like explore. Like basically, some of the vendors do set up their own little haunts in their booths. But this seems like it's going to be like one big haunt with a bunch of the stuff added into it. Here's a picture of one of Distortion's their exhibit, I guess, or their setup right now. Which, I mean, you and I both know Distortions is one of the top prop makers out there right now.
It really is, and this is going to be very interesting because usually we, as haunters, kind of look at this stuff and say, okay, well, what is everybody going to start building, and what is going to be the theme? And last year was pumpkins, and almost everybody had pumpkins. And if
Yeah.
Distortion is starting aliens, that might bleed over into something as you go into Transworld.
Yeah, because I mean, this looks like some stuff they just threw together because I don't know how long they were planning an IAPA to put the haunted house stuff in. Um, and needless to say, smaller haunts like Hell's Dungeon, of course, and I would assume Chainers
Mm-hmm.
aren't really going to afford what Distortions puts out. Because a lot of that stuff is like multi-thousand, like tens of thousands of dollars. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we would get distortions, it would probably be something that someone's had and gave it
yeah.
to someone else, and we're like the fourth owner of it.
Yeah, which I mean, even still, it's still pretty cool. But I mean, the a lot of their stuff too with Distortions, they make their stuff like for the haunt. Like when you order it, they build it from the ground up. When you order it, they don't have like a giant stock room of already built aliens or dinosaurs and things like that, or whatever prop you want. They actually build it almost like to your spec, the specs of your haunt and that.
And if
Um,
you want to change the color on something, I know that they'll work with you on it just to match you up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that does make them one of the top, you know, especially animatronic producers out there. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty cool. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm excited for IAPA to be including haunted house stuff, haunted house, a haunt area basically. Because again, this is your Kings Island is down there, your Cedar Fair parks are down there, your Anheuser Busch parks like your Sea Worlds and that. Disney's there, Universal's there, looking at the new technology that is being produced for the roller coasters, for any of the dark rides, and of course now for their Halloween events. But moving on to our next story, like I said, after losing the lease for Ghoul Brothers Haunted House in Akron, Ohio, with little notice, owner David Barton has organized a GoFundMe campaign. The haunt seeks to raise $20,000 to assist with moving and storage expenses as they hope to rebuild in a new location at some point in the future. Ghoul Brothers is a nearly 16,000 square foot attraction that hires 70 plus people seasonally and supports local small businesses and artists. They must be completely out of their previous venue by December 30th. As of Monday, November 18th, the GoFundMe has raised over $900 towards their goal.
That's
Uh,
a really heartbreaking thing right there.
and unfortunately, it seems to be happening a lot in Ohio. With Area 13 happening to shut down, early this year because of their uh, conflicts with the city council.
Hmm.
Still not knowing what Carnage's future could be.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's still going to be up in the air until everything gets worked out.
yeah, and I mean, I've heard of so many haunts this year in Ohio closing, having to shut their doors because they're either getting put out of where they are or, um, they just can't afford the rent.
Yeah, and
And
I don't know how your guys' numbers were, but a lot of people were reporting that the numbers were down this year, so that wasn't helping any of the problems.
no, no, we were down. I think we're still in the good because from what I understand, the landlord wants us there where we are, and it's one of those situations where even if they didn't, the smart business move is to work with us because nobody else is going to rent out the space that we're in.
Hmm.
There's really no other business that could benefit from the space that we're in. So we're lucky enough that they work with us, and I think if they had a meeting with the owners, so hopefully some news will be coming out about that soon. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just it sucks. It sucks. I feel for them because I heard really good things about Ghoul Brothers this year. Carnage, of course, we all know. We all know how you and I both know how awesome Carnage is. I mean, it, it's one of the best.
Yeah,
It's one of the
absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of the best haunts I've been to in Ohio so far. Um, Honestly, probably ever because I haven't been to too many haunts outside of Virginia or Ohio. Like, I don't travel too much, unfortunately. But I do. I love Carnage. I love everything about Carnage. I love the people that work there. Angela is one of my favorite. I have to say second favorite Voodoo Queen because if not, Megan might come kick my ass.
Hey,
Angela,
I'm not biased either on anything. I'm going to say that one she's made a comment multiple times. Megan has how
mhm,
Angela is who she looks up to.
yeah,
So she even says, I've tried to kind of mimic myself a little bit on this. And Angela, props to you every single time. She actually made her makeup look like my character's mask.
nice. Nice. Yeah, but yeah, talking to Megan last year after because Angela came through us twice last year. Um, Once before they opened on her birthday, and then once, of course, during industry night. And both times, like Megan was kind of giddy afterwards. Especially the second time, Angela said her accent's getting a lot better. So yeah, but yeah, Angela's just freaking awesome. Um, and hopefully Carnage can get their situation. Mia and Carnage can get their situation worked out, and hopefully Area 13 can get their stuff worked out. Because I met them guys this year. They came through the dungeon right after they got closed down, and they were really cool. They were really nice, um, and they seemed bummed, but they also seemed excited to be going through other haunts and that. So, like I said, hopefully, because from what I understand with them is like the council broke the law. Like ignored a judge's order or something like that. I'm not gonna like say that as facts, but from what I
There,
understand,
there's
like there's
there's
some
a big
shadiness
story
going.
there.
Yeah, there's some shadiness going on with the council from the sound of it. Uh, but let's see. Moving on, where it is, right here. Denton business owners see a boost in sales after 31 days of Halloween events. So I guess Denton, Texas, did this big thing this year where they had a month-long collection of spooky events in and around downtown. Denton, of course, being on the outskirts of Dallas. Uh, so many residents have long gone all out to celebrate Halloween, but this was the first year the city made it official with 31 days of Denton Halloween, a month-long collection of spooky events in and around downtown. Now that October is over, city officials, business owners, and attendees can reflect on the project's success. Dustin Sternbeck, the city's chief spokesperson, said the idea for this project originally came from a conversation at the city level about Christmas decorations. So that sentence right there, I've been saying it for years that Halloween is really up there, almost. Honestly, I think it's almost overtaking Christmas with how many people decorate anymore. Outside of like the quick string of lights and whatever. Um, But for a whole city to decorate, basically, that's pretty awesome. While we want to make every holiday seem special in Denton, the one that really stuck out in terms of our conversation with was Halloween. So we began planning Denton Halloween 10 months before we actually rolled it out to the community, he said. The goal was to turn Denton into the state's premier Halloween destination by involving as many downtown businesses as possible and to offer a variety of events that cater to different ages and interests. We saw around 145,000 more people that visited our downtown this October compared to last year, Sternbeck said, adding that 60% of those visitors were not Denton residents. The Discovered Denton Visitor Center saw nearly 40,000 visitors in October. The storefront, which was transformed into the headquarters for the North Texas Ghostbusters, was also the place to buy Denton Halloween merchandise, which grossed more than $43,000. So basically, the city is making money hand over fist, just putting up Halloween decorations and having Halloween events during October. And it's coming from people outside. Basically, it's the tourist dollars. We used to see those a lot in Virginia Beach, needless to say. All of the festivities led to more people visiting downtown square and its shops and restaurants. This month has been one of the busier Octobers I can remember, said Axel Severs, who has worked at Recycled Books, Records, and CDs for about 7 years. All that stuff going on the square certainly drummed up business. So basically, Denton did something cool. They celebrated Halloween for the entire month, and surprise, surprise, people came to visit. People came to see it.
If it was closer to me, I'd go to see it. I mean,
Oh yeah,
anytime you can get a business to okay an idea, not just one, but everybody,
I'm
that's
talking like the whole.
incredible.
This is like the city council okayed this. Like the whole city celebrated. They basically did 31 days of events. Like every day they had a different event in their town square, and it ended up drawing in like 400,000 more people this year than visited last year.
That's a heck of a nice jump, I'll tell you. Businesses are usually the ones that kind of are very skeptical on a lot of things. So to
Yeah,
get the backing from businesses to say, yeah, we'll go along with this idea because that's their money. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, you want people to come in and spend money in your community, but there again, as a business, that's your money, and a lot of businesses don't like to play with their money.
No, you really can't blame them. Like I'm originally from Virginia Beach, and if it rained or anything on Fourth of July weekend, Memorial Day weekend, or Labor Day weekend, these business owners would lose their shit, and they would start panicking because that was their bread and butter of those weekends at the beach. That's when all the tourists come down. Like I used to watch a parking lot across the street from the amusement park, literally on the beach. And if you've been to any beach, there's no parking at the beach in general. You're going to park about 3 blocks away. And they went from charging $10 and this is back in 2006. They went from charging $10 at the beginning of the day to by noon they were charging $100 to park there.
Oh, absolutely.
These guys, like you said, you won't fuck with their money. You won't mess with
Yeah,
their money, and taking a chance like this, it paid off.
one of the best things is we got a business that's right beside us, and they let us park our vehicles for our haunt in their back parking lot. The good thing is, we always tell them, "Hey, go to eat at this restaurant," and this restaurant has seen a jump in their business, even though that this is a very busy restaurant. They get a little more busier just because we exist, and they're grateful to us to bring in the money. So when you're coming down to a business idea, if you're going to lose money, it's a almost guaranteed no. There's got to be a major jump in a good reason. And it sounds like this community not only had a great idea, but this should be a tradition down in their area for a very long time. They just got to keep on reamping it and figuring out what's going to be the next catch that they can add onto it.
Yeah, and like I said before, it doesn't help that Denton is also like literally on the outskirts of Dallas, which I think, if I remember, I think Dallas is one of the most populated, areas of Texas. So all those people from Dallas are coming in, from Arlington are coming in, and I think what did I see? I think a second ago, I think it said like the town itself, like the city, the town center, like the visitor center, saw like made an extra $43,000 this year from everybody,
And,
from them, coming in from all these
and
extra tourists and that. So you can just imagine how much like that recycled books and DVD place is making, or these coffee shops that are on town square, or these restaurants or cafes and that.
and that's one of the biggest things right there. I mean, why are you going to leave Dallas when there's so much in Dallas to do? If you've got something to do in Dallas, you don't want to leave. These people here found a good reason to leave the Dallas area and start coming over to this area.
Yeah, and Halloween. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Halloween sells.
It does.
Uh,
Texas Hunters Convention should absolutely have them have a
yeah.
booth.
Oh yeah, definitely have send the city count or send the visitors bureau of Denton, Texas. Yeah, that would be all. That would be very smart, actually. Be very smart. Moving on, we have Hysterium Haunted Asylum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Have you ever heard of that one?
I think that's come across my list of haunts that we need to have on my show.
Okay. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Well, here's a good reason to have them. They're celebrating Krampusnacht on December 6th and Unlucky Krampusnacht on December 13th. So they're going to be open the 6th and the 13th for their Christmas shows, essentially. But the cool thing is Krampusnacht is, of course, December 5th. And I know Columbus does a big, I think it's Columbus or right outside of Columbus, does a big like parade and everything for Krampusnacht, and has a big celebration that weekend. I've not been, I think Fort Wayne's probably closer to you, isn't it? Because I've not been to Fort Wayne yet since living here.
You're down in the Dayton area, aren't you?
I literally live right around the corner from the dungeon.
Well, in that case, yeah, it is absolutely closer to me.
Yeah.
Probably by an hour.
Yeah. I used to drive to Greenville once a week to stock the Kroger out there, and God, I can't stand Greenville. I just, I don't know what it is about that city. I worked Amazon, and I got stuck always delivering to Greenville and Arcanum. I was like, put me in Arcanum, put me in New Paris, don't put me in Greenville. But I've been wanting to visit Fort Wayne too, and this is actually a good reason to do it. But yeah, they got, like I said, they're going to be open on the 6th and the 7th, or the 6th and the 13th, for their Christmas haunts. And Pyle, that's actually going to do it for the haunt industry news.
Well, that's awesome.
Yep. Did you want to stick around for horror, or do you want to go and hop off?
If you've got horror news, I'd be more than happy to stay on. I just don't know about this movie. You made it feel very unsettling.
Yeah, the movie itself, or I do that after the break. I do the movie after the break, so you can hang around till the break if you'd like. Horror movie news. We start out with WWE superstar CM Punk joins sci-fi series revival. Apparently, it's based on a comic book. Sci-fi is bringing the comic book revival to the small screen. We recently learned, and Variety reports today, that pro wrestler CM Punk from the movie Girl on the Third Floor has joined the cast. Pyle, I don't know how big of a wrestling fan you are.
I'm not the biggest at all, because when I was a little kid, I absolutely was one of the Hulkamaniacs. But
Definitely.
then I realized that, there's a script for this.
Yeah. And the more modern wrestling, me, Raz, and Matt talk about it. Hopefully that show is going to come back soon. It's becoming a little more obvious that a lot of this shit is fake. Surprisingly enough, back in the 90s when they had a wrestling zombie, that wasn't as obvious as it was now.
Right.
CM Punk is probably one of the best wrestlers of this generation in ring. He's universally hated. A lot of people do not like this guy on a personal level. He's known. He's got a little bit of a hot head, hot temper backstage. There was one incident where he's in the crowd posing, at the end of the show, and somebody comes up and just punches him in the shoulder, like a fan does. So he just turns around and just fucking clocks the guy behind him, thinking it's him, and he ended up hitting the wrong guy. There's also been incidents of him, causing fights in another organization backstage. That's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people just can't stand this guy. And I know the movie, I have not seen Girl on the Third Floor, but it got some pretty bad reviews. Not just from professional reviewers, but from the people who watched the movie as well. But CM Punk is said to have joined Revival for a recurring role. Melanie Scrofano, Romy Weltman, David James Elliott, Stephen Ogg, which Stephen Ogg is one of those guys, him. He's what I call a that guy actor. Because you know him, but you've never seen what he looked like. Stephen Ogg is Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 6 or Grand Theft Auto 5. He's the voice of Trevor. And he's been in a lot. Been in a lot of movies and shows, but he's always like a secondary character. He's never a main star. But if he played the Grand Theft Auto franchise, Grand Theft Auto 5, he is the beloved, what do you call it? White trash, crack dealing, anal raping Trevor. And Andy McQueen, who will also go ahead.
He kind of looks like that in all the photos I just pulled up on him. You're absolutely right.
I met him at a convention a couple years ago. I think it was actually Horror Hound in Indianapolis. And he looked and dressed just like Trevor. And then when he talked, it was like, holy shit, that really is Trevor Phillips. So the synopsis for this show is: on one miraculous day in rural Wisconsin, they recently deceased suddenly rise from their graves. But this is no zombie story, as the revived appear and act just like they once were. When local officer and single mother Dana Cypress Scrofano, I'm probably butchering this woman's name, is unexpectedly thrown into the center of a brutal murder mystery of her own, she's left to make sense of the chaos amidst a town gripped by fear and confusion, where everyone, alive or undead, is a suspect. So it seems to be a smart zombie show. I'm not the biggest comic book fan, so I'll tell you right now, I haven't read this comic. Sounds interesting though. Let's see. The Revival comic book series was created by Tim Seeley from Hack and Slash and artist Mike Norton, and it was published by Image Comics between July 2012 and February of 2017. It could be interesting. I'm a CM Punk fan. That's actually when I do the wrestling show. That's my because I don't have a webcam. That's the picture I use as a South Park image of CM Punk. So I'll give it a try. Well, let's see. Moving on. The latest collaboration between Netflix and executive producers, the Duffer Brothers, they are the producers of Stranger Things, is the supernatural mystery series The Burrows. Per Variety, 6 new cast members have been added, including Dee Wallace, Cujo and the Howling. She is the mom from Cujo. What is funny is she's also the mom from E.T., but she never gets the credit for that for some reason. She's 100% the mom from E.T., and she's always known for Cujo and the Howling. And Ed Begley Jr. It also has Raphael Casal from Loki, Jane. Good lord. Kazmarek from The Changeling, Eric Edelstein from Twin Peaks: The Return, Musa Hussein Kraish from American Gods have also joined the cast. The log line for the upcoming series sounds like a blend of Stranger Things and Cocoon, which I like. Cocoon. Cocoon was always a good movie.
It's actually one of the movies I got to put on my list.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. You get Wilford Brimley before he has diabetes. It's also got like Steve Guttenberg in it. It's one of the movies that's like a classic, but nobody really remembers it.
Bet your Raz would.
Oh, more than likely. Let's see. Cocoon that sees senior citizens saving the world from an otherworldly threat. The Office. In a seemingly picturesque retirement community in the New Mexico desert, a group of unlikely heroes must band together to stop an otherworldly threat from stealing the one thing they don't have: time. The 6 new cast additions join previously announced cast members Alfred Molina, legendary actor, Gina Davis from Beetlejuice, of course, Alfred Woodard, Dennis O'Hare, Clark Peters, and Bill Pullman. In other words, the Burrows is shaping up to have an impressive. It really is shaping up to have an impressive cast. Bob, Alfred Molina alone. I love Alfred Molina. If you've seen a movie in the '90s, he's probably one of the bad guys in the movie. I think I remember him most as Snively Whiplash from the Dudley Do-Right movie.
Good reference right there.
Yes, that's what I remember him the most from. That's because I was a teenager in the '90s and I laughed my ass off at that movie. But yeah, I mean, it should be good. Stranger Things itself was good. I only ever got around to watching the first season of Stranger Things, and I did like Cocoon, so it'll put an interesting dynamic on it.
So my biggest thing is I binge watched Stranger Things because I loved the way that it was done, this and that. I just did not like what the first part of the 4th season, how it ended. So I don't even know if they're going to correct what they did in the Stranger Things or if Stranger Things is done and over with.
I think there's one more. I think there's one more season they're doing, and then that'll be it. I could be wrong though on that, but I think there's still one more. But like I said, I only ever got I'm not a binge watcher. That's the weird thing. The wife will sit there and she'll sit there and watch like LA, all these legal shows all day, like NCIS. She'll watch that shit all day long, and I'm like, after 2 or 3 episodes, I'm like, can we watch something else? And the fact that I got through 3 episodes is impressive for me. So, now I'll be the first to admit though I can sit around watching Family Guy and South Park and like Simpsons and shit all day long. Even Simpsons though, after a while I'll get tired of it. But like Family Guy, American Dad, South Park, I can watch all day long and just have it on as background noise,
Oh yeah.
But moving on, Bob Clark's classic masterpiece, Black Christmas, has gotten not one, but 2 remakes over the years, and they're both fucking horrible. But it's the original slasher from the 1970s that continues to endure over the years. On that note, Variety has announced this afternoon that I think this is actually really, really recent news, that the original Black Christmas is headed back to U.S. theaters this holiday season from the American Genre Film Archive. The theatrical re-release celebrates the 50th anniversary of the classic proto slasher, and American Genre Film Archive will be presenting a 4K restoration of the film for the big screen. So to make you feel old, yes, Black Christmas is 50 years old, but to make you feel even older, Christmas Story, another Bob Clark movie, is 40. I think it's 44 years old this year. So yeah, have fun with that, guys.
If you Google Black Christmas and it pops up and you look at the cast, if the cast is still alive, they look like at any point you could blow and the dust would come flying off them.
Possibly they've got to be in their like 70s or 80s.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, then 50 years ago. Screenings in North American theaters will take place from December 7th through December 22nd. Participating locations: Olympia Film Society in Olympia, Washington. There's Seattle, Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, Boston, Wisconsin. I'm not going to read all these theaters off because it'll just take forever. Uh, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Austin, Texas, Denver, um, Denton, Texas, at the Rubber Glove Studio. I don't know if I want to go to a theater called the Rubber Glove. Montreal, Quebec, Portland, Oregon, Santa Ana, California, Brookline, Massachusetts, Edmonton, Alberta, and what is this? AGFA is proud to partner with our friends at Shout Studios and Mutant to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Bob Clark's Black Christmas by bringing the iconic holiday horror hit back to movie theaters. Basically, it's repeating what I just said. So we got two more stories, and we still got plenty of time, actually. So this is, again, these are two stories or two things that I saw this afternoon that I had to do a little bit of research on because there's not much known about it. But Pyle, what would you say if I told you there's a Popeye horror movie coming out?
Really? Is this part of the trilogy along with Winnie the Pooh?
No, but there's something else coming out about that here in a minute. But there's an image from the trailer.
You know what? I like that.
Let's see. And this is not even a story. This is the almost looks like the casting page. Popeye the Slayer Man follows a group of friends who sneak into an abandoned spinach canning factory to film a documentary on the legend of the Sailor Man who was said to haunt the factory and local docks. Current status: it is in post-production. It's supposed to come out next year. The studio is Millman Productions, Ostego Media, Ron Lee Productions, and Salem House Films. It's got 4 writers, and the director is going to be Robert Michael Ryan. Looking at some of the cast, I don't know who any of these people are.
It's going to be we're going to make you or we're going to break you in your stardom.
Yeah,
but you know what? I've been really surprised at some of these movies that are taking my childhood and absolutely destroying them. I mean, yesterday I made a comment. Wouldn't it be just great to see some of these cartoons and this and that we grew up with and just destroy our childhoods? And here is another movie that might destroy your childhood.
This is true. I mean, like you said, though, the picture looks awesome. I didn't get a chance to watch the trailer because I was watching this bullshit movie today. I've got. Trust me, I've got some shit to say. And I want to sit here and say, because I know I've had it happen before, where the filmmakers or somebody who was in the film that I'm deep diving has joined the chat. If you're one of the filmmakers, fuck you. That's all I'm gonna say. You're not gonna like the rest of what I have to say, but fuck you. That's all I'm gonna say right now.
I love your mentality right there. Stick it to them.
Yeah, this is not gonna be pleasant. But yeah, I mean that's really what it is. It's public. Popeye the Sailor is public domain in Europe, but will reportedly not be public domain in the U.S. until sometime in 2025. So these guys went and made the movie, and they're like, we're just gonna wait until Popeye is public domain, and then we'll put it out there, because a lot of these movies this year that have come out, trying to take the Steamboat Willie, have had to change the names of their movies. Yep. Like there's one on Amazon right now called Mousetrap. I can't remember what the original name of it was. I think it was like Mickey's Mousetrap or something like that. They had to change the name of their movies because Disney basically was going to beat the shit out of them in court. Because Steamboat Willie is public domain, Mickey Mouse isn't.
Right, and that's absolutely true. Steamboat Willie just became, and Disney has done everything they can to keep Steamboat Willie as long as they did. They kept on throwing it back into court, back into court, back into court. Finally, the court said, yeah, let them have it.
Yeah. Because, it's just not worth the fight. After a certain amount, there's a reason why any DVD set you find anywhere that, hey, come watch a free screening of Night of the Living Dead. Well, why? Because Night of the Living Dead is, public domain and they can show it without being sued.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to it because, like I said, that picture right there, it looks pretty cool. And I guess
It'd be even better
was that
if there was a shark right behind him. Just saying, that guy looks like he is just getting ready to go after a shark and use the shark on the people. Just grab it out of the water and throw it at him.
So just basically reach in, grab a shark, and just throw it at a motherfucker.
Exactly. I mean,
hey, I'm down.
He really looks like he could rip a shark out of the water and throw it at people, and that would be a hell of a twist on a canning.
So if they make this movie and he doesn't eat a can of spinach at some point and just like throws about 6 people out of fucking windows, this is going to be a failure. This is just going to be a failure.
I need to watch this movie with you.
Yeah, this is gonna. I'm looking forward to it. This is gonna be fun. But moving on to our last story, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I didn't like the first one. I didn't care for it. The second one I haven't seen yet, but it does look like it's going to be a little better, honestly. A little more horror driven versus storytelling in that. But I guess they're making 2 more. There's a 3 and a 4 coming out for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So now they announced today that they are making. Let's see. Did not bring up the right page. Why did this not bring up the right page? They're bringing out a Winnie the Pooh kind of Avengers, like called the Poohverse.
I'm excited for this.
It's literally, I mean, trying to bring it up again on here because the page that I brought up for some reason is the casting information for the original Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Or is it Pooh Vengers, I think? Where is it? I think it's there it is, right? No, the Pooniverse. It's supposed to be the Pooniverse, Poohniverse. It's a movie that's going to feature. They've done a lot of movies. Like they've done, they got a Bambi movie coming out at the beginning of the year, in February called Bambi: The Reckoning. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and then there's 2 more Winnie the Pooh movies. So this guy has this Pooniverse almost like like an Avenger. It's literally called Monsters Assemble, and it's supposed to feature Winnie the Pooh, Bambi, Peter Pan, Pinocchio, and if I could speak Spanish, I could tell you what the other 2 are. But I think it's like Captain Hook and someone else. I can't remember if I remember right from what I read earlier. And
Pinocchio, isn't it?
We did say Pinocchio. Let's see. Like I said, the page that for some reason when I brought it up earlier, it brought up, and I didn't pay attention. I brought up the Blood and Honey, the original casting page. I know they're also talking about doing and it's this Reese, what's his name? Reese Frake Waterfield. I did one of his movies on the show back in July for my Christmas in July show. He made this movie called Killer Tree. Don't fucking watch that movie. That you want to hear me cussing on a podcast? That's how you get me cussing a lot on a podcast is have a Christmas tree fight. Possessed Christmas trees. So, yeah. He's gonna direct it, and I guess they have another movie coming out where it's supposed to be Winnie the Pooh versus Mickey Mouse, almost like a Freddy versus Jason style movie. So there's that to look forward to as well. But all right, that is going to do it for the news segment of the show. Pyle, where can they find you at?
Well, you can find me on a couple of different shows here on the Allight Network. And you can find me on Facebook at Pyle Hazard Pyle Hazard on Facebook, not .com. Jeez, criminy. I don't need that one.
You don't want your own website? Come on. Get a GoDaddy.
No, you know what? I got enough things going on. I don't want my own website. You can also find me as the host of Chainer's Haunted Secrets, which is going to be here in 2 weeks on Wednesday, right before the toy drive.
Well, there you go. Thank you again for coming on, man. Like I said, you probably knew a little more about the Fear Expo than I did. I've never had a chance to go or read up on it or anything like that. So I do appreciate it, man. It's always great to have somebody on to talk the news and that with.
Oh, absolutely. If I got more time, I'll see if I can jump in one of these again. But
yeah, you're good, man. You're good. I appreciate it. And like I said, thankfully you didn't have to watch this movie. This is not going to be pleasant. The rest of the show is not going to be pleasant.
Well, actually, here in a couple hours, I gotta come back on here. At 9 o'clock, I will be doing, I think, one of our other shows, and I can't remember which one we got tonight.
Let's see, because I know there wasn't anything else built yet, so I couldn't tell you. Let's see, Owl Light Network. I'm on the Facebook page now. I got so many freaking chats open. They're filming a couple of videos down at the haunt tonight, so they're trying to get people down to help. And
Corpse Garden Chronicles is tonight.
Okay.
At 9:05.
Well, there you go, guys. Tune in later tonight for the Corpse Garden Chronicles. I think that's isn't that
It's
the
me
one?
and Jenny.
Me and Jenny talk about the graveyards, right? Kind of.
Graveyards, anything. She's got some stories that she wants to talk and tell about, and
Wow.
you know what? I'm a good listener on stories.
Yeah. Everybody, who doesn't love a good story? But all right, pal. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a good holiday this week.
Absolutely,
And-
you too, and thanks for having me on here.
Oh, thanks for coming on, and hope we get to see you at you coming down for Hell's Dungeon for the Christmas haunt.
I should be down there with some of my crew on Saturday, and I think Monday, Friday the 13th, I am going to go up to Blood Prison.
Oh, that's on my list. I follow that what is it, the 6'7" haunt chick, the Widow's Bride on TikTok, and that shit looks great.
The Warden's Widow. Yep.
The Warden's, yeah, that's right, the Warden's Widow. So she's awesome. Like she's got a really big, really huge future in the haunt industry with her creativity in that, because that character alone looks awesome. Just looks amazing, and that scream she can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we had Vic, for the owner of Blood Prison, on Chainer's Haunted Secrets that you can find on YouTube.
Nice. But all right, we're gonna go ahead and send this commercial here real quick. Pyle, again, thank you for coming on, and you have yourself a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, you too.
See you later. All right, guys. Like I said, we're gonna jump into our ad break real quick, and when we come back, Amityville Thanksgiving. This movie may have broke me. See you in a minute.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Well, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite seems trying to say is that on Retro Reductibus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Your King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brick.
You can listen to Retro Reductibus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
And we're back. Welcome once again to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am your host, of course, the Sewer Dweller. And today we are doing Thanksgiving. Amityville, Thanksgiving to be specific. Once again, thank you to Pyle for coming on and joining me for the news. It's always great to have somebody on here to talk about the news with. And like I said, I'm not. I don't think I want to. I would want to subject anybody on this network to this movie because, yeah, we'll get to that. So Amityville Thanksgiving. It came out in 2022, of course, set in the village of Amityville in New York State. There are hundreds of Amityville movies, different types. Some serious, some funny, and some just downright, stupid, in all honesty. The Amityville story, of course, begins in New York with the... Hold on, I got to look it up real quick. With the DeFeo family, where Ronald Joseph DeFeo murdered his entire family in the house. Everybody knows the iconic house, the house with the windows that look like eyes. One night he just murders. He killed his mother, father, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters in Amityville, New York. He was sentenced to 6 counts of 25 years to life. He did die in prison 2 years ago. But the story got popular because a couple of years later, a family moves in and let me... it wasn't the Lutz family. The Lutz family moves in, and then they immediately move out because they claim that the house is possessed and haunted, and that they were, that I think it was the father was being told. If I remember right, I think the father's being told to kill his family or something like that, according to him. And yeah, it's a big. At the end of the day, to be honest with you, I don't necessarily believe the Lutz family. And Amityville is one of the reasons why I don't really take the Warrens too seriously. Ed and Lorraine Warren, because Amityville is the haunting that made them popular, to put them on the map. But Amityville Thanksgiving came out, like I said, in 2022. Let's see, where was it filmed? Um, doesn't say where it was filmed. In the United States is what all it really says on here. It was released on November 8th, 2022. There's really not much trivia or anything like that. We'll talk about that afterwards. It was written and directed by the collaboration of Will Colazzo Jr. Let's see, what else did he write or direct? He's a Long Island, New York-based filmmaker who specializes in horror films. Camp Murder. I've actually seen Camp Murder. That one wasn't bad. I didn't mind Camp Murder. If it's the one that I'm thinking of, yeah, okay, this is the one I'm thinking of. Where with the female wrestler and her and her husband go on a camping trip with a couple of her fans, and one of the fans is in love there. We actually had him. He was actually in the stream one day. Mark Rappaport, I believe his name was. Um, when we did God, what was the movie? The shark movie we did. It was Blood Shark. But he's got quite a bit of producer credits, which I'm not interested in really in producer credits. I want his director credits. There we go. Where the hell did it go? There we go. Silent Night, Bloody Night 3, Descent, Axe Grinder 7, Clown Night, Creepy Pasta Unleashed, Dracula in the Hood. So a lot of low budget stuff. I've seen a couple of these actually. Dracula in the Hood is in production. A lot of stuff in pre and post production. That's his upcoming stuff. Stuff that he has directed in the past. Camp Blood 9, which I don't know if I've seen that one yet. I've seen a lot of the Camp Bloods. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. Amityville Turkey Day, which is actually the sequel to what we're watching today. Amityville Apocalypse, Amityville Shark House. He really likes his Amityville movies. A couple of shorts. Yeah, I mean that's really what he's known for. Of course, is horror, low budget horror, which is not a bad thing at the end of the day. It really isn't. But his co-writer and director is Julie Ann Prescott. She's an actress known for, she's got a movie coming out called Axe to Grind, Demonoids from Hell, Bloody Nun 3, Amityville Shark House, Alien Vampire Busters, Kill Dolly Kill. I'm gonna have to look at this one. Okay, that's a trauma movie, so we'll probably watch that eventually. But she's been in quite a bit. In The Barn 2, that's a big one. Camp Blood 666. Don't Fuck in the Woods 2. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's stuff that she's been in. The movie stars Paul Fagioni. I'm going to assume. I don't really want to say the other word, the other pronunciation, but I think it's Fagioni. He's only been in 7 things. He's an older gentleman, but he's only been in 7 things. Madoff, The Monster of Wall Street, Glow, Mi Familia, Bloody Nun 2, Empires of New York. Nothing too major. Again, nothing too major. I don't think anybody in here really has been in. As well as one person who might have been. Natalie Perry, who plays Jackie DeFiore. Danny and Jackie are the couple that are in counseling. I think if I remember, I think she's got a little bit more. Yeah, she's got like 34 credits to her name, starting way back in 2005. Nothing that jumps off as anything too major. Bloody Nun 2, and that's what you find with movies like this. Is a lot of these people, a lot of these actors will stay and the directors and that stay. Hey, Friday. Hello, hello. But they'll stay a lot with like the same. The directors and the writers will use the same people in a lot of their movies. Julianne Prescott and Will Colazzo Jr. Both do star in the movie as Joe and Linda Morris. We have Mark Fullhart as Frank. 43 for him not to have a picture on IMDb. He has 43 credits to his name. 4 previous director credits. Again, nothing jumps out. Let's see. Started in 2015. Again, nothing major. Not even a lot of horror from the looks of it until now. He was in Amityville Thanksgiving. He's in Amityville Turkey Day. Again, the sequel to this movie. Tom Ciari as Dr. Baron Richards. He's a rival camp counselor. Again, nothing much jumping out. But see, the one I want to talk about though, Sean C. Phillips. He has a cameo in here, really, as Jeremy. He's a member. He's one of the guys in the gay couple we'll talk about later. But Sean C. Phillips has been in so much shit, and when I say shit, I mean he is your low budget legend. Honestly, he's a low budget legend. Starting all the way back. Let's see, in 2007, and he's done so many horror movies. Assault of the Sasquatch, Macabre Medicine, Limb Collector, Hell House, President's Day, Beyond McNasty, Filthy McNasty 4, which I haven't seen that one. I've seen the rest of them. I haven't seen Filthy McNasty 4. The Dreadful Hollow Green Special, Slaughter Weekend, Demon of Castleberry, Pork Chop 2, which I do really want to do the Pork Chop series on here. The only problem with doing the Pork Chop series is the movies are like $120 to buy because they're out of print. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Witch's Brew, Bloody Mary. I mean, just you name it, he's been in it. Girls Gone Dead. We'll probably have him on the show quite a bit, in all honesty, with how much stuff he's done. Sheriff Tom versus Zombies, the WNUF Halloween Special, All American Christmas Carol, just so much stuff. Night of the Living Dead, MILF versus Zombies, Camp Blood 4 and 5, Krampus, The Devil Returns, Return to Nukem High 2. Just so much stuff. He's got a bunch of stuff getting ready to come out as well because, like I said, he does a lot of cameos and that. And he's a great actor. Staycation, Director's Cut, Amityville Webcam, Creepy Pasta Death in Amityville Bigfoot. Like he's just the guy. But we're gonna go get started in this movie. You got little ones, put them away. Put them to bed. Get them out of the room, because this is gonna be rough. So let's get started with Amityville Thanksgiving. The movie opens up on the Amityville Chamber of Commerce sign and then cuts to a gazebo. And basically, they're rolling credits, and it's a lot of B-roll of just different locations around the village of Amityville with some generic ominous music playing. Again, this movie probably doesn't have the biggest budget. But we get to our first scene, which is just the outside of a log cabin, and where we meet Frank. He is a couples therapist, and he's recording. And in a lot of this movie, it jumps back from like this filter on front of like you would see on if you were recording on a camera. But he's recording a video about a couple he's been seeing for a while now. And this might be their last resort. So he's invited them out to Amityville for Thanksgiving dinner. Spoiler alert, there is no Thanksgiving dinner. Get that right out of the fucking way. There is no reason for this to be called Amityville Thanksgiving. I'm just gonna get that out of the way. He says he doesn't expect much. He tells us he doesn't expect much. Frank says he's a little lazy and she's at her wits' end with him. Frank says maybe like whittling a masterpiece out of a piece of wood, they can salvage something out of their marriage. At any rate, hopefully they'll have a nice Thanksgiving dinner. He's going to let them use the cabin for the weekend, and maybe then the sparks will ignite it. Their sparks will ignite again. One can only hope. The video ends with Frank whittling something out of a piece of wood, and this has, yeah. We cut to Frank, and he's sitting down with Jackie DeFiore, the wife. He asks her what she hopes to accomplish this weekend, and Jackie says she wants him to want her like he did when they first met. She wants to feel loved and, wanted and needed. He doesn't do anything, and she does everything. Right away, 4 minutes into the movie, and she's actually stumbling over her lines. We'll talk about that later because I think I kind of think there's a reason to this, but she is definitely stumbling over her lines. She says he's a gambler and he doesn't pay anything. She pays the bills, she pays the mortgage, and he doesn't make her feel sexy or wanted. She wants that feeling again, and she keeps going on before Frank grabs and rubs her thigh, saying, "That's terrible." And my first thought is, what the fuck, dude? Like, he's rubbing her thigh like you'd see in a porno. Like, he's kind of going up there a little bit. With like you'd see in a porno before the bow chicka bow bow. Frank asks her if it turns out that he's incapable of being the man you want him to be, would you look elsewhere for your satisfaction, aka would you cheat on him? Jackie says she's thought about it, but she hasn't done it. She said she's stumbling over her lines again. But then it cuts to the video recording view, like it does that filter, it puts the filter on, and Jackie starts freaking out, asking why are you recording why are you recording what she's saying? And Frank tells her it's standard procedure, and that he records all of his sessions. Jackie says it makes her feel really uncomfortable, and Frank tells her that it shouldn't because it's for both of their benefits, and that he reviews it at the end of the day to see if he made any mistakes or could have done something different. Um, by the way, Frank is a very, very old man. He's an elderly man. Like, you're talking the 70s, 80s. Like, he's not a young man whatsoever. Sorry. He asks her again if she would try to find someone to caress her and perhaps, get a little risque and show you what they want and what she needs. Now I'm thinking he's fucking hitting on her. He's genuinely hitting on her. Jackie asks if Frank is asking for her husband or asking for somebody else, and Frank just says, I'm asking because I'm a therapist. She says that she would want it from him and nobody else. Frank reminds her that the question is if he's incapable of doing it, is she okay going the rest of her life without it? Jackie says he is capable, but he just lost it. And she knows and prays he can get it back. Frank grabs her thigh again and tells her that he's going to do the best he can. And he tells her to remember that help is always there in case he can't. Now she seems to be getting the same vibes I am from this creep. She asks him what he's talking about, and Frank tells her he's here to help any way he can. And just like a million red flags just went up at the same time. And she just goes, okay. And they literally just stare at each other for about 30 seconds before Frank grabs the wood and just starts whittling again. Jackie laughs and asks what that was for and why do you have a knife? He tells her it was for the whittling. Okay, so Frank is a fucking creep already. He's just a fucking creep. And I'm talking you're talking elderly man. And let me see if I can find I want to see if I can find a picture of this guy from the movie so you can see just what I'm talking about. Here we go. Is this one of the ones I can save? I can't use that one, damn it. Can I use this one? Nope. Sorry, guys. I will definitely. I know you guys like the dead air so much. I love it too. It's great, isn't it? Let's see. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. So I got us a picture. Hold on one second. Let me get it uploaded. I want you guys to see just how old this guy really is to be this creepy. This is actually from this one of the scenes we're going to see in a second. But the guy in the flannel shirt all the way to the left is Frank. And yeah, he's just, it's just fucking creepy. But we now cut to Danny DiFiore, Jackie's husband. Frank asks him what he hopes to accomplish this weekend, and Danny tells him, well, he hopes to get their marriage back on track. He's also stumbling over his lines a bit. Danny explains that they are both on opposite sides of the spectrum, and he thinks she's the problem, she thinks he's the problem. The writers of this movie clearly think he's the problem, though, because they're making him look really, really bad. Frank tells him that a little bit of ravaging would go a long way with her, and Frank tells him she wants to be taken, Danny. And Danny said he's doing this really bad New York Italian mobster style accent, and it's just not good. He says if the woman would shut the fuck up and stop nagging me. Frank tells him, and I quote, well, maybe if you put something in her mouth, she'd quit nagging you. In what is probably the funniest line in the movie. And it was that quick. It's like, well, she would shut the fuck up and stop nagging me. Well, maybe if you put something in her mouth for her to quit nagging you. But Danny's response is simply, well, I thought of that. Frank asks what she thought about that, and Danny said, she don't like that. She wants him to do all the work. Frank says he's thinking of a number, 69. And Danny says she don't like that either, and again repeats the line of that she wants him to do all the work. Danny says it's hard for a man to perform when he's being constantly put down. Again with this, and he's stumbling over these fucking lines. Frank tells him he's got to take her breasts and cup them firmly. And Danny asks what she's been filling his ears with. Frank continues to tell the middle-aged man how to make love to his wife. And again, let's look at the picture again. None of these people are young, guys. Like, Danny himself, all the way to the right in the dark shirt, he's easily in his 50s. Like, what the fuck? They argue a bit as Frank tells him he's got to take his tongue, run it down her belly and in between her fucking legs. And that's exactly what he says. He literally goes, you got to take your tongue, run it down her belly and in between her fucking legs. And I'm just sitting here like, am I watching a Sopranos reboot? What the fuck is going on? Danny asks, what about her tongue? And Danny says, he doesn't know what she's been telling him on this fucking camera here. And the movie switches filters again, but only for like a brief moment. Frank says, okay, you both have needs. Frank tells Danny her need is for you to grab her by the ass and slam her down on the bed and do her in plain English. Danny just says, it's like I said, Doc, it's pretty damn hard to get in the mood, to get aroused, and to get my blood going, to want to do what you're saying to my wife with her nagging all the time and telling me what a piece of shit I am. Frank tells him, Frank literally just looks and goes, well, then don't be a piece of shit. Danny says he's not a piece of shit, and she may think he's a piece of shit, and even Frank may think he's a piece of shit. Like these are word for word from the movie, guys. And the writers of this movie, and I wrote that the writers of this movie are going way out of their way to paint this guy as the bad guy, which he's not. He's not a great guy. Let's not kid ourselves. Danny says just because he doesn't have a 9 to 5, Doc, doesn't mean he's a piece of shit, and he doesn't do his share in the marriage. Frank says he just gets the impression he's a lazy bum. Danny says, well, you got the wrong impression. Now we cut to Frank talking into the camera saying that Danny is stubborn. He says that he told Danny that Jackie just wants to be loved and desired, and he's not making that effort. Is that really what he said? He didn't say that. Then Frank gets creepy again. He says, you got a wife like that? She's hot as hell. Frank says that he got wood. Giggity. Frank says Danny doesn't see it that way. Frank repeats a lot of what was said in the video, and then creepy Frank shows up again and says, if I had a wife like that, he would care. He would care what she called. He wouldn't care what she called him. That he'd be on that thing like stink on shit. Frank says, what we'll do now is get them both in together and see if we can get them to both to inch towards the middle. And so far, the writers obviously want us to think Frank is a creep, Jackie is a nag, and Danny is a piece of shit. And the entire bad guy, and the bad guy in this entire situation. What does this have to do with Thanksgiving, you ask? Absolutely fucking nothing. We cut to Danny and Jackie sitting on the sofa next to each other, and Dr. Creepy is like literally sitting on the end of a chair. Again, let's look at the picture. This is from this scene. Hold on. Gotta move that out the way. That is the scene. This is the scene. He is literally at the end of that chair. Ugh. Frank says, let's try to get to an amicable solution to all of this. And he tells Jackie to tell Danny what she wants out of him. She starts in on the wanting to be loved before Frank tells her to be specific, what she wants him to do to her. She tells him to remember when they started dating and how he couldn't keep his hands off of her. And when she'd walk in the room, he'd throw her against the wall, caress her, and kiss her. She tells him she's kind of hurt by that. And Danny says, well, things have changed. He says, if you keep treating me, like this is, okay, guys, this is word for word, okay? He says, and I quote, if you keep treating me, like a piece of shit and calling me a piece of shit just because I don't have a regular 9 to 5 job and I go out to Atlantic City and I gamble, that I'm less of a man. And I wrote down, my God, when they have to do long lines, it's brutal. It was a lot more to this. I'm paraphrasing what he said. But he was stumbling the entire time in what I would assume would kind of technically be a monologue. He's just stumbling over and over himself. Maybe then he'll start acting like a man in the bedroom, and his juices will be, won't have a problem getting his juices flowing for her. Danny says he can't perform under this kind of stress. Jackie says, okay, but you expect me to pay for everything. And Danny says, why not? You make a pretty good living. Yeah, Danny. No. No. So they start arguing about Jackie making enough money to pay the bills and him going out and making a few bucks himself gambling. Jackie says it's all for him, and they argue over the money some more. Frank stops him and tells Danny to pick up the stick on the table, and he picks up what he calls the wood. And it's a little tiny stick. Again, And Frank says that that's his relationship. And then Frank pulls out again. That's the stick that Frank pulls out right there. I'm gonna just leave that up there for a second. And both Jackie and Danny asks how that's possible. How do you make that big ass stick out of that little one? Frank says, well, just a lot of whittling. Danny gets pissed and says that this is what I'm paying you $150 per session for telling me about my piece of wood could be like this. Jackie says, you're not paying him. I am. You're not paying for the session. I am. And Frank says, there you go, Danny. Jackie is smiling as this scene is clearly done without, this is being done clear without a script because Jackie just starts laughing to the point where she actually leans down, covers her mouth, and you can see her shoulders still shaking because she's laughing. Danny says, okay, what is she paying you $150 for? And Jack says, so you can ravage her. Jackie, and I wrote down, Jackie is laughing her ass off, by the way. Again, I ask why this, and it's, we'll talk about it later, but why weren't these scenes reshot? Like, it's almost as if they went one take because there is so much fucking up going on. And, like, they keep stumbling over their own lines and talking over each other, and to the point where it really does seem as if uh, there's no script, that they're just winging it. Danny says he came 200 miles up to Frank's cabin so he could compare Danny's wood with Frank's wood because Danny can't sit there and go, well, I spent $150 per day. Because no, fucker, you aren't. Frank says she wants to see you to strip her naked and do her. Jackie is still covering her mouth as she is still laughing. And she's sitting between them and she's laughing. In a scene that probably she shouldn't be laughing in. I wrote down, but again, it really seems like they're like, you know what? Fuck it, wrap it, let's go. Danny asks Jackie if that's what she wants, him to strip her naked and throw her against the wall. Jackie says exactly. Now Frank decides to end the session here and says that they made some progress. Frank says he's leaving them to their own devices. He's going to let them have the cabin for the weekend. Frank tells Danny that he may not think it's such a big deal, but what she wants, but it could save his marriage. And Frank tells Jackie that she may be surprised that she sees a different side of him after this weekend. Frank says he's going to leave them the keys to the cabin. They'll be alone with a chilled bottle of champagne and a comfortable bed upstairs. What they do with this weekend will determine their marriage, and he tells them to not waste the opportunity. That was literally the first 10 to 15 minutes of the fucking movie. Yeah, that was the first 10 to 15 minutes of the fucking movie. We cut outside to some random shots of the forest and the cabin. Excuse me. And Frank is recording again, saying that to keep track of the De Fioris, he's going to check on them from time to time. Of course, he has cameras mounted so he can see their activities. Frank says something about this couple doesn't seem like they are right for one another, and that he's going to try the best he can, and he has no idea where this could end up. So I wrote, we are now 15 minutes into the movie, and there's no talk of Amityville, the murders, or anything else related to the story. Like, there's no haunting talk going on. There's no, hey, we're in Amityville. Do you know what happened here? And on top of that, nothing outside of him mentioning Thanksgiving. There's nothing Thanksgiving related to this movie. So we cut to a doorway to basically the outdoors, where a random man just walks up and stares into the screen. And we learned that this is Frank's house. He's looking for Frank, and his name is Dr. Baron Richards. and he has a practice in town. And I wrote, in a very weird shot, it cuts away to Frank telling Baron to come in, and then it cuts back and Baron standing in the front room. Like, you couldn't just do a continuous shot and film him coming in. I mean, and it turns out that Baron is also a couples counselor, and that Frank says he thought he was the only. Frank says he thought he was the only one, the only couples counselor in town, and Baron says up until recently he thought the same thing. Baron tells Frank that he may remember a couple named Joe and Linda Martin that came to see him right around this time last year. Pretty redhead with tattoos. Frank remembers, oh yeah, they came around Thanksgiving time last year. Yeah, like this. That's what he just said. We love you too, Friday. This movie. Baron says they were former clients of his, and Frank asks why they would come to him then, and Baron says, well, they thought a different approach would help with their marriage. And again, they're improving lines. Like it's weird because they're still talking over each other. Baron says they haven't been seen since last Thanksgiving after he saw them. Baron asks if they told him anything of where they were going, where they may be going, or anything. Frank tells him the last time he's seen them, they were walking merrily out down the path to their car. Baron asks what happened during their therapy with Frank, and in Frank's defense, he reminds Dr. Barron of the doctor-patient confidentiality, and that he doesn't keep track of his clients like that, and that once they are done, he pretty much never sees them or hears from them again. Barron says he's been looking into Frank, and apparently a bunch of couples have gone missing since they've seen Frank. Frank says it's not uncommon, but Barron says that's very coincidental, though. Barron says he doesn't know why the police haven't come to question Frank, so he decided to come question him. And Frank basically gets angry and goes, you come into my house and threaten me, a man with a knife in his hand? He asks Barron if he's an idiot and tells him to get out and to never come back. Okay. Pointless character number 1. Baron Richards. We'll learn what happens with him and things, but I guess he's not really a pointless character, but they could have really done without him. But here's where the movie gets a little extra weird. So we cut to Danny and Jackie. They're walking around the property, and the fucking sunglasses that Jackie has on, they do not help her look attractive. She actually looks like an 80-year-old woman coming out of or a woman in her 70s, coming out of a doctor's appointment. I have the picture. Somebody, please tell me, what the fuck is she wearing? Like, those glasses are ridiculous. And it, like I said, it just makes her look like an older woman coming out of an eye doctor appointment. Not that those glasses make him look any younger either, which neither one are really young, but I think the young lady, the lady that plays, what was her name? Natalie Perry. I don't think she's but in her 30s or 40s rather. She's not that old. Like these glasses, ugh. So she asks Danny what he thinks, and Danny doesn't know about this guy. And that he seems too obsessed with Jackie. Ring-a-ding-ding. Jackie says, you're always jealous. And Danny says he's talking about her, that the doctor is talking about her curves and how you like to be ravished with the tongue and the fingers. And he gets crazy. And Jackie says that's what I told him, and this is why we're here. Danny points down at something and says, look at this. He's probably burying bodies out here. Now they're supposed to be, okay, this is right. This is where I start getting really angry. Now they're supposed to be on a mountain in the middle of the woods, away from everyone, by themselves. And nobody for miles, right? So if that's the case, if you're filming a movie that's you're supposed to be in the woods, isolated from everyone, in a cabin, all that good stuff. Maybe if you're filming a movie in the woods, how about I don't know. How about we don't film the movie in the backyard of someone's house and film the neighbor's house in the background? I'm going to try not to yell no more because this annoyed me so much. And it takes a lot, guys. It takes a lot to annoy me. They are filming in someone's backyard. How hard would it be to drive to the fucking woods? Film in the woods. Why are we in someone's backyard? The camera shows what they're looking at, and it's literally just a pile of trash and wood. And it's not even a big pile. This is like a couple of like pallet pieces, a couple of sticks, and some yard waste thrown on the ground. There's not a hole. He says it's a hole. There's not a hole. Again, how hard would it have been to just dig a fucking hole? They keep arguing over Frank, and Danny says that they are out in the middle of nowhere. Danny, we can clearly see other houses over your shoulder. You're a liar. And he's finding a hole, pile of trash, and he's never even heard of Amityville before. So Danny lives under a rock. They keep arguing, and Danny says she never listens to him. Jackie says it's a nice place though, and Danny still hates it as he continues to say middle of nowhere, and we can see the neighbor's fucking canopy over the patio. Over their patio set by their pool. Danny said he's afraid to walk back there now. Now they are walking by some, and then they're just randomly walking by some lattice fencing. It's like the lattice under a porch that you would put underneath, like when you build yourself a porch, you put the lattice there to keep animals and shit out. And Danny reaches into the hole and pulls out a Ouija board. Jackie starts freaking the fuck out, and Danny says he hasn't played this game in years. By the way, the house is in the background again of them. Like they're doing a wide shot of them arguing, and then clearly see the fucking house. Danny says, let's bring it into the house to see what kind of demons we can drum up. Jackie keeps freaking out as they argue over the board. Danny says he's bringing it inside and he'll drum up some demons by himself. The most insufferable couple ever keep arguing in the backyard, disturbing all the neighbors that aren't supposed to be there, by the way, and she keeps telling him he sucks. Like, neighbors came out and were like, what the fuck is going on over there? Why are they yelling at it? Who are these people? She storms off as he follows her with the board, and he says he's going to conjure up some demons. Now, Danny, you only have the board. There is no planchette. He didn't find the planchette. He only found the board. As they are walking back to the house, Baron pops out from behind a bush. And Danny, of course, asks, who the fuck are you? Why are you on this property? Baron introduces himself as a couples therapist, and Danny asks if he's associated with Frank. And Baron's just like, no, no. But he asks if they are patients of Frank. They tell him they are, and we're up here for the weekend. Baron says Frank is not a licensed therapist. He's not a doctor. and he's a dangerous, dangerous man. Danny asks, why should we believe him since he just jumps out of bushes like he's a fucking stalker, scaring his wife, and he says the word, I don't know you, from Adam. Keep that in mind. Barron tells him that the former patients of his came here to this cabin in the middle of nowhere, house with the blue patio cover in the background, to see Frank, and they haven't been seen since. Jackie says Frank told her about that couple, and Frank said they were back together. Barron tells them that the couple hasn't been seen since they came, since last year when they came to this cabin, and no one has seen them in the past year. Since they were last here, Barron tells them they need to leave now. Danny asks why they should believe him because they don't know him from Adam. That is the second time that Danny has used that line. Barron shows them some identification and tells them to leave. Danny says they're going to take their chances, and essentially they tell Barron to fuck right on off. Now we cut inside where Jackie is sitting on a couch, and Danny has found a laptop with no cord, by the way, no charger cord, and says, hey, there might be porn on this. Jackie clearly doesn't want to watch porn, and to the point where she even tells Danny, you see this? You see this? And she's pointing to her body. I'm the porn. She finally just agrees and just tells him to put it on. Well, joke's on you because it's not porn. It's the couple from last year. And it has that recording filter on it again. And it's a testimonial saying that therapy was great. And Linda says there were some times when she really wasn't with it. Linda says she doesn't need any more sessions by herself, which seems to be a running theme. Joe says that the costumes worked and they climaxed together at the same time. Linda says, yeah, thank you for that, I guess. And it does really seem like she doesn't want to be there doing this tape. Jackie says this isn't porn. They talk about the same thing, basically, he did with the couple in the video that he did with him. Even Frank touching the thigh like he does with Jackie. Danny does the whole told you so stick. He says Frank is a strange dude, and Jackie doesn't want to watch this anymore and tells Danny, would you want somebody else watching our sessions? Danny still thinks there may be porn on the computer, and she tells him they came here for a reason, and they are going upstairs right now to see what they could do upstairs. Danny asks, what are they going to do upstairs? And she yells, what do you think? Danny says he'll be right out. We cut upstairs, and Jackie is going through a closet. Meanwhile, downstairs, Danny has opened the laptop up, and we cut to a couple in bed together. The guy's got his shirt off. The woman's in some lingerie. Jackie yells at Danny to get up here right now to see what she's found. Danny gets upset, but heads upstairs anyways. And that's it. We literally see 2 seconds of that video for no fucking reason whatsoever. Once upstairs, Jackie has found a turkey suit. Jackie asks what this doctor is into, and she hands Danny a turkey hat. And Jackie says, I'm not wearing this, so don't get any ideas. Danny says, I ain't wearing this, so don't you get any ideas either. We cut to later on, and basically they're in bed. Danny's flailed out on the couch, on the mattress, snoring. Jackie wakes him up, and basically he's like, no, you're going to fuck me right now. He gets up and says now that she woke him up, he can't get back to sleep. And she gets angry at him and just rolls over. So we cut to a little later, and now Danny's laying on the couch for some reason in the dark. He gets up again because he can't sleep, and then he hears some pots banging around in the kitchen. When he goes to see what the noise was, he sees there's a redheaded woman in the kitchen messing with some pots and a tea kettle on the stove. He says, hello, and she turns around and says, oh, hello. She asks if Frank is here, and Danny says no. And it's clearly Linda from the other video. She seems a little upset that Frank isn't there. Danny asks if she is his daughter or something, and she just says, Yeah, sure, whatever. She tells him that she always spends Thanksgiving with Frank and that she was just making the dinner. Danny is not really bothered by the fact that some random person is in the house with them. She says that she'll come back later and do this, and Danny asks if she wants him to let Frank know she was here, and she tells him that he probably already knows. Oh, and by the way, that don't mess with that Ouija board that you found outside. And Linda is gone. When the we now cut to who knows when, because the windows behind them are clearly, it's still nighttime. And Danny and Frank are both wearing the same clothes as yesterday, and they're sitting at the table, and Danny is telling Frank about the girl from this morning. Danny asks if that's his daughter or something, and he tells Frank that she was a pretty girl, red hair, tattoos. Frank says no, she's a former patient. Frank says he lets her come here from time to time to use the kitchen. Danny tells Frank that she told him she always comes to spend Thanksgiving with him. Frank says she used to, especially if he was lonely. She would come by. She would come by and spend time with him, just like Danny and Jackie. He hopes to see them every year for Thanksgiving. And Frank says it would be nice to have you up here and to keep up the work with Jackie. Weird scene. Now we cut to Danny using the Ouija board that the strange person clearly told him not to use. He's also somehow found a planchette, which goes flying, and so does a beer can. All of a sudden, Danny's body goes stiff as a hooded figure appears behind him and tells him to take the shotgun out of the cabinet and kill his wife. The shotgun is in the cabinet, but first, you must fornicate with her. Danny starts to honk and grunt like a zombie as he starts climbing the stairs. Once he gets upstairs, he Frankenstein walks over to the wife, taking his shirt off, and for some fucking reason, he starts flexing. He climbs on top of her, and she says, "Danny, what the fuck?" And then she's like, "Oh, yes, finally." None of her clothes came off. He just jumped on and just rode the wave. We put the video filter on for some reason. All we hear is him grunting and her moaning. We cut to Danny standing over his wife and Jackie asking him what happened. Danny says he doesn't remember what happened. And Jackie says, "Well, it's the best sex we ever had. That's what just happened." Danny walks downstairs and we hear a voice telling him, "Get the gun and kill your wife." Now, for some reason, a minute ago, the voice told him that the gun is in the cabinet. He reaches above the cabinet in the kitchen and grabs almost like an assault style shotgun. He walks back up the stairs zombie style, cocks it, and aims the shotgun at his wife. Here's about the only tie into Amityville that I saw because, of course, Ronald DeFeo murdered his family with a shotgun. Jackie wakes up, screams as she sees him aiming the gun at her. The scream wakes him up almost as he drops the gun, and she screams at him to get out. He still seems out of it as Jackie is calling Frank, asking him if she should call the cops or not. She's freaking out on the phone, hyperventilating, all that good stuff, which I'll give it to you. If you wake up in the middle of the night and a loved one is standing over your bed with a fucking shotgun, I think that's how you're going to react. So downstairs, she's asking why he had a gun, and he's lucky she didn't call the police. He's trying to tell her he doesn't remember how or why he had the gun. We cut to a few moments later, and Danny is saying, "You're telling me I have to go stay in a hotel." But he's not looking at Jackie. Now, I will say this. I should have said this at the beginning. I had to watch this movie on YouTube. This movie's not available for free anywhere, except for YouTube on the Kings of Horror movie channel, which is a very good, if you like independent horror, the Kings of Horror is a really good channel to watch. They have a bunch of like low budget stuff in that. The only catch is that if there's nudity in the movie, you're not going to see it. That's the only reason why I don't like watching movies on YouTube, is because if there is nudity, which I don't think there was in this movie, but if there is nudity, it's going to be edited out because it's YouTube. But I'm assuming either bad editing on the filmmaker's part or just something was cut out of YouTube. Obviously, Frank is there and is telling him to leave. Danny leaves, and we have a quick cut to Frank holding Jackie's hand, saying he didn't figure him to be that violent. Jackie says she can't because she's still married to him, and she still loves him and doesn't know what happened. It's like, bitch, all he's doing is holding your hand. What do you think he's doing? And again, this is one of those things where it 100% looks like they don't have a script for this movie. And that they're just winging it when it comes to the lines. Frank says you may not survive the marriage if that's the case. Frank is still being really creepy. Frank says he's happy to stay there for the night for moral support and physical support if necessary. And he goes to put his arm around her, and she pushes him away, saying, "No, no, 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 I'm still married." Frank says she was almost dead, and she tells him to get out, and she doesn't want. Says she doesn't want him to leave, and he tells her, "You don't want me to leave," and she says, "No, yeah, fuck that, get out." And she's telling him to get out again and again and again. Again, guys, Frank is the one with the flannel shirt, older than dirt. Fucking creepy. We cut to daytime, and Frank is sitting in a park recording himself again, which this happens a lot for the rest of the movie. He explains how Danny came back with a shotgun and he kicked him out to a motel. Frank says things are coming to plan and dropping right into place. We cut to a cabin again, and it's still nighttime. Jackie is sitting on the edge of the bed, or sitting on the bed in a dress shirt, and a fat hooded figure appears behind her. It stares at her and then touches her shoulder. She turns around to look, and it's gone. Now, for some reason, we are back downstairs again, and Jackie has the laptop where we have a gay couple on the screen now. They're arguing over one guy posting. Basically, it's Enrique and Jeremy. Jeremy, played by legendary Sean Cunningham. Sean C. Phillips. I'm sorry, Sean C. Phillips. Is playing Jeremy, and then Enrique is essentially a very large. I think he's African American, but he could be Latino as well. So we'll just call him Enrique and leave it at that. And Jeremy and him are arguing because Enrique keeps posting duck face pictures on the internet, and Jeremy says he doesn't give him the duck face in real life anymore. Jeremy thinks Chubby Guy is Everett Chubby Guy in that. Before I learn their names, Jeremy thinks Enrique is cheating on him and texting other people because he's always on his phone. Enrique tells Jeremy that he's just jealous, and Jeremy says he does trust him, but it appears Enrique has cheated on him before. Jeremy tells him he likes all the shirtless pics with all his muscles, but that he misses when he misses when Enrique had a lot of hair on his body. Jeremy says, "We're bears. We're supposed to be hairy." Hold on one second, guys. I need to get a new pair of headphones. They keep talking about kink and stuff like that, and flavored lubes, and then the things the Chubby Guy wanted to do with a whip, or Enrique wanted to do with a whip. It goes on and on for ridiculous. It's like a really long time and way longer than it should be, and it really doesn't add to the story at all. It's more for comic relief because Enrique takes Jeremy's arm, and Jeremy says, "Oh, I love it. I love it when when you let me rub your belly like Santa Claus." And he starts singing "Up on the Housetop." It is pretty funny, but again, doesn't really add to the story. They want to go back to a room for a few minutes and be alone. But it seems that Frank wants to talk to Enrique alone for a few minutes. Jeremy doesn't like the idea, but Enrique says it's fine. He'll talk to him. And then we can do our thing. Enrique, talking to the camera, says he loves him, but then says it doesn't seem like he looks the same way at me anymore. Then they find new ways to fall in love again. Enrique says letting someone eat your ass isn't cheating. Enrique says, of course he looks better. He looks at other guys, but he loves Jeremy. So we cut away now, and we come back, and Jeremy is now sitting on the couch. Excuse me one second, guys. All right, I had a little bit of a frog in my throat there. But we cut to Jeremy. He's asking Frank where Enrique is because he didn't come home last night. He didn't come home last night. His phone's off, and he just can't get a hold of him. Jeremy asks if Frank did anything to Enrique and tells him that if he did, he's going to go to the police. The whole time, we don't hear Frank's voice, by the way. It's literally just Jeremy and Enrique talking to the camera. Jeremy says, come and find me and do what? Jeremy says, this threat makes me think you did something to Enrique. And then Jeremy asks, where is Enrique? Jeremy goes, no, and starts to back off screen, kind of scared. Walks off camera. We hear a thud, and Jackie covers her mouth, scared. We cut back to the screen, and there's a ghoul or a zombie on the screen, and he's just doing the scream thing back and forth. It's CGI. It's pointless. It has nothing to fucking do with what's going on. And she closes the laptop. We cut back to Frank outside in the park again, and he says, what was with the gay couple? Frank says he doesn't have the kind of skills to counsel people like that because, frankly, he doesn't even know how they act amongst themselves, let alone normal people. And now Frank is a creep and an asshole. He says that Enrique was a big boy, though. A lot of meat on those bones. He says he had to use Enrique for something, though, so he took Jeremy, killed him off, and used him to stuff Enrique. So Enrique's your turkey, and he stuffed him with Jeremy. Creative. Frank says there was enough meat there for 2 Thanksgivings, and he says he took half of the meat and put it in the freezer, and it was still good the following year. So now Frank's a cannibal? He says you can't run out of food, and it's better than going to the supermarket. We cut back to the house, and Jackie walks back upstairs. We hear some high-pitched giggling, and we see 2 people having sex on the bed. Jackie basically says, what the fuck? And it's the couple from last year. The female is in the turkey suit on top, and she's riding the male underneath her, and he has the turkey hat on. Jackie just goes running. We get back to the park again, and Frank is laughing, saying, as far as finding that turkey costume, that was a leftover from when the Martins were here. He says it was part of their therapy. Frank says, first off, Mr. Martin was a pain in the ass, so he beat him to death with the stick. And he beat him so bad that the flesh just fell right off of him. He says the wife was a pain in the ass too, because she wanted no part of carrying a demon spawn of that nature. So now he's a demon? So he had no choice but to kill her and devour her as well. You might say they both became Thanksgiving dinner. He says he didn't need that. I'm assuming the suit for any of the others until these two came along with this as a sexless couple. He says try having sex in a turkey costume. It doesn't work well. It didn't work out well for the Martins, and it wasn't going to work out for these two either. So we cut back inside. Jackie's on the phone with Dr. Frank, begging him to come back. Quick cut to Dr. Frank holding Jackie as she says she's been seeing shit all night long. He says he checked upstairs and there's nothing there. Frank says she just went through a traumatic experience tonight, and it might make her see things that aren't there. He tells her he's there for her physically and mentally. Frank asks why he doesn't take her to bed. He tells her to go upstairs and get undressed, and he'll be up in a minute. She leaves, and we get a really shitty animated reptile's tongue, like popping out of his mouth. Like it's this really cheesy CGI shit. So now is he a demon? Is he a reptilian? Just a cannibal? Like what the fuck? We cut to the bedroom where it's clear two people are having sex. The camera focuses in on a phone call coming in that just says husband. Now, we basically we know it's Frank and Jackie having sex. There's that image for you guys. Frank on the left and Jackie the female getting it on. Ugh. Luckily, we don't see anything though because it's really just a shot of two people under a white comforter. Little feet on the outside pointed up, big feet on the or little feet on the inside pointed up, little feet on the outside pointed down. And like I said, it's a weird fucking shot. You know, it's obviously what they were supposed to be. It's one of those comedy movie things, you know, where they start doing like the rocket blasting off in the air as people are having sex, or if you're watching like a Scary Movie 5, I think it is, where they're making fun of Black Swan and it has and the women are making out and they have the two scissors come together and things like that. And it's what it kind of comes off as. Because the camera itself even says sex cam. We hear Jackie moaning before cutting back to the park. And Frank says after sending Danny away to the hotel, he has this outrageous sex with his wife. Somebody who hasn't had decent sex in a long, long time. He says he stuck his tongue in there and she was screaming like a banshee. He says she climbed on top of him and damn near ripped his skin off. Frank says when it was all over, he was relieved to know that he put his demon seed inside of her. And she was just so gratified for the sex that she just laid there, smiled, and clutched onto him. Frank says they ended up doing it again and as many times as they could before he couldn't go anymore and he just passed out. Frank says she gave into the darkness and rode him for dear life, and now she'll be part of the darkness. There you go, guys. There it is. As he seeds successfully inside of her, Frank says she's carrying his successor, and she's carrying his successor that he likes to believe. Cut to the bed where Jackie is crying because she cheated on Danny, and she's going, "What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I?" Over and over again. And we cut to the bathroom, and she's asking herself repeatedly, "What did you do? What did you do?" And she's freaking the fuck out. She goes to open the shower curtain, and there's Linda Martin standing there with blood coming out of her mouth. Fully clothed, by the way. We now cut to a knife whittling a stick. And Jackie asks, "What are you doing here?" It's Danny whittling the stick. Frank with a black jacket. He has black makeup around his eyes and an upside down cross on his forehead and a hooded figure all sitting at the table. Jackie asks, "What did you do to my husband?" Frank says he didn't do anything. He's one of us now. Frank says Danny played with the Ouija board and shouldn't have. Jackie asks what he's talking about. Frank says he's no longer her husband, that Frank is. She tells Danny to make him stop, but Danny just keeps whittling. Frank asks Jackie if she enjoyed the bliss they had. He tells her he left her with a little something, a demon spawn growing inside of her. And that demon spawn will make Frank immortal, and Frank is going to live forever thanks to her. He tells her to take care of this baby, and soon she'll be one of them. He tells her every Thanksgiving he takes some lost souls. Last year it was the Martins. Frank says, "Oh yeah, I think you met her. She was the girl in the shower." This year it's her and Danny. Then next year it'll be someone else. And so on and so forth. He tells her not to worry though, because she'll live forever. She screams no and slowly goes to open the door like it's just moseying like, "No!" Slowly goes to open the door to leave. And outside we cut to CGI, and for some reason a gate. I think it's supposed to be the gates of hell. And the gates slowly open, and we cut to just Jackie screaming. That's it. Like, that's fucking it. Now this part of the fucking movie. We cut back to Frank in the park again, talking about Baron. He says he gave him a friendly warning to stay away from his properties, but he ignored it. Frank says he's got Baron's jaw mounted somewhere on the wall. He says he doesn't know what to use it for, maybe a coat rack or something. Frank says, "You know what I did with the rest of him? You know what I did." Frank says, "You know what I did with the rest of him. He's buried out here, part of the legacy here." Frank says it didn't go easy for him. Wanted to make him suffer. We cut to Baron entering what I assume is supposed to be a shed or something, but it ended up being Frank's house. Baron slowly walks the stairs, and then for no reason whatsoever turns around and walks back down. Baron walks in on Frank sitting at the kitchen table, and he's still whittling. Baron says he knows for a fact that the Martins never left his house. Frank laughs and says, "Yeah, you got me." Frank says he beat the husband to death with this stick until his skin fell right off the bones. Again, we're rehashing lines. He tells Baron the wife wouldn't stay pregnant with his demon sperm, so he fried her up and had her for dinner. He says he always saves the best for last, though, and lifts a black napkin up to show us a fucking CGI head of, I guess, was supposed to be Linda Martin. Baron freaks out a little bit and just starts calling the cops, and Frank says, "Get him." A hooded figure appears and hits Baron across the face with something. And now we get more shitty CGI as Baron's jaw is hanging off of his face. He screams as he keeps trying to call the cops. And when I say scream, it's... We see the hooded figure standing over him again, and he just whacks him. Baron's dead. And pretty much possibly the only person we get to see killed in this entire fucking movie. We cut to 1 year later, and it's a news story on a local doctor who is now missing in action after being named a suspect in a series of disappearances spanning several years. So we're just going to jump into this. We're not going to say, "Hey, what happened to Danny? What happened to Jackie? What happened to Baron? What happened to all these other people?" The news anchor, by the way, is in a striped polo shirt. He tells us about Frank and says that he's the last one to see multiple couples alive before they went missing. Nobody's been found, no evidence, and no formal charges have been brought. But we have witnesses who claim to know the truth. And I wrote down that this is... I wasn't a fan of this. There are long pauses while reading the story, which again tells me either this guy is winging it or he's reading his lines, moving the paper, reading his lines, moving the paper. But it's taken him a very long time to do this. Unless he's also trying to drag it out, because we're right now about 50 minutes in, and I'm going to tell you right now, nothing fucking happens the rest of this movie. He says one man who requested not to be named said in a recent private interview that he and his girlfriend, Petra Smart, went for multiple sessions with this doctor, with Dr. Frank, and that he grew increasingly more and creepy with each session. The guy says that that Dr. Frank held several private sessions with Petra, but he never went by himself. He wouldn't, basically was never invited to come by himself. Only she was allowed to go by herself. The first time she returned, she said they should stop going altogether, that it wasn't going to work out with the doctor's new method, with the doctor's methods. The boyfriend agreed, saying that the doctor was acting creepy. Somehow the doctor convinced Petra to return to discuss something in her file, and she was never heard from again. When police spoke to Dr. Frank, he said she never made it to the appointment. After further discussion, he was left alone to conduct his business. There was one last interaction that this man claims happened before the doctor disappeared. He said he got a phone call from someone who sounded just like Dr. Frank, who said that he gutted his girl and would strangle him with her insides if he ever called him again. The kid believed him and fears running into him to this day. We now cut to a guy who's filming a video of himself crying. He says his girlfriend Petra has been gone for days now. He goes on to tell pretty much the exact same story that the reporter just told us. The reporter says the only people who had proof of the doctor's wrongdoing are also missing. I didn't write down anything that kid said because, again, it was word for word what the fucking anchor just said. So now for almost 10 minutes, you're getting the same story over and over again. We cut to Frank now, and he's got an oxygen hose in his nose. Frank says he's not doing good these days. He says even those who live on the dark side get older and start to fade away and end up leaving this planet. He says all the fun he's had and all the bodies he's buried around here. I don't know, 20 or 30. He says you lose track after a while. Even the ones who didn't die the way he normally would normally, let me repeat that. Even the ones who didn't die the way he normally would expect, like that Jackie who couldn't hold on to his demon spawn, and that useless husband of hers, Danny. And all we see is a woman's hand basically just like get drugged down. It's covered in blood and it gets drugged down a shower wall. So apparently that's the end of Jackie. Frank says Danny outlived his usefulness the same night, and that Dr. Barron, Frank says they're all gone. They're all buried. Frank says it was all in his demonic nature. He says his job is not done, but he won't be there to finish it, and he hopes that someone else out there, as devious as he is, picks up where he left off, because he left a legacy here. He makes more whittling analogies, but says he hopes someone beats people with it and not whittle it. I'm talking about the wood. Frank says, "Watch out, world, because he's going to be younger than me, and he's going to have the time. He's going to have the time to finish the job." We now cut to a hotel on the 4th floor. It's not really a hotel; it's more like a business building. But we cut inside a room where the reporter from earlier, again in a striped polo and camo shorts, has an open envelope on his desk, and it apparently came in yesterday. He opens it up and just says, "Oh my God, Frank has my daughter." Not upset, not scared. He says he got his daughter on a videotape. We cut back to Frank calling out Jack the reporter. He says he saved the best for last. "Do you remember that beautiful daughter of yours, Stephanie?" Frank says she is a mouthful, and what a morsel. Frank asks Jack if he's a religious man, and Frank asks if he remembers Jesus' last meal. Stephanie is going to be Frank's last meal. He says when he's done, he'll send him something in the mail. He'll send you an email of this tape, and then I'll also send you a little something to remember her by. Maybe a part of her he didn't want to eat, like the intestines or something. We cut to a redhead walking down a path, and it's literally just a girl walking down the park. That's it. Cut back to Frank, who says, she should be here soon, Jack. Oh boy, lunch. Good thing he didn't eat this morning because he wanted to save his appetite. We cut to a wide shot of Frank looking around. Now we meet someone named Eugene on Amityville Public Access for some fucking reason discussing a local columnist named Jack Tolerance. You can barely hear what this guy is saying. Eugene says he Jack got too close to a story he was covering. So this should serve as a cautionary tale for all of you investigators who are fly by night. Eugene tells us he was going after the story of a local therapist, and Eugene says Dr. Frank has a ton of bad press. His reviews are horrendous, and he has multiple police investigations going on. Astonishingly, his practice is still open. Eugene tells us that Jack would do anything to get the story, in fact, allegedly even having his own daughter pose as a patient in order to bait Dr. Frank out. Eugene says the daughter came up missing and the doctor is still missing as well. Eugene says that this all screams paranormal, especially in Amityville, and he has tons of theories. He pretty much says his professional opinion is that Dr. Frank was possessed. We now cut to yet another guy on a black and white camera named Grant Hayes. He slowly tells us that he was hired by Dr. Barron to investigate Frank. What he found proves that Frank's responsible for the deaths of Barron and several others. It's more of the same shit. I didn't write down everything this guy said because it was all the shit we've already talked about, and this movie's dragging the fuck on now. We've already seen telling us that he has videos of Frank's murders. At the end, he calls out Frank and says he knows he's out there, you sick old bastard, and starts telling him he's gonna find him, and he better hope the law finds him before him, and blah 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 blah. We cut to yet another person who normally does gaming, and he's coming live to talk about the disappearance of his sister and her husband. And her husband is the main suspect. He talks about how they went to couples therapy, and of course, more about how people who went to see Frank never returned. And it's pretty much Jackie's brother. I didn't write down everything he said. And thank fucking God, roll credits. This movie is over. Holy shit. I literally watched this movie all the way up till we were about to start because I got behind. I had work and stuff this week going on. It's also Thanksgiving, so baking some stuff, making some goodies and that. This fucking movie. Let's get some trivia out of the way if there's anything worthy of talking about. Julianne Prescott is a huge fan of Paul Fagione's work and admitted to being a little starstruck when they met at the first table read. She's a fan of Paul Fagione's work. Was he in more shit than I... what is this? Actor. He's been in 7 things. Whatever. Get back down here to the trivia. Mark C. Fullard had health issues during film process and had to be absent for certain scenes. Maybe that explains a little bit more of why random shit was happening without Frank's voice in that. For the opening credit sequence, the filmmakers filmed infamous Amityville house from a distance because you can't get anywhere near the real Amityville house right now. The people who own it are kind of sick and tired of random people coming up to their house. Natalie Perry is widely considered one of the most flatulent women on the planet. She is featured in numerous magazines and print ads around the world and has over 40 films currently in development. I don't think they know what flatulent means. Whoever wrote that. But that's all the trivia. I'll do a review, but you guys know what you guys, if you've been listening to the show, you know what I think of this fucking movie. This was awful. It drug on and on, especially at the end, like the last 20 minutes of this movie of just video after video after video after video. It was released in 2022. So the pandemic is not a good excuse for it. Because it should have been filmed in 2022, 2021, right about the time when everything was getting lifted and all that good stuff. Get over it. I don't. It was awful. It was released on in the United States on November 8th, 2022, straight to DVD, of course, because this fucking movie didn't deserve to go to the movie theaters. Just to tell you how bad this movie really is, it currently has a 1.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which anything under a 3 or 4 on IMDb is amazingly bad. It has 101, 62, 17 threes, 14. It has 29 10-star reviews. Oh my god. And I'm going to read real quick. Let's read one of these reviews because there's a 10-star review right on the front. I'm sorry, 8 out of 10. One of my favorite horror movies. This is my favorite guilt pleasure. Will Colazzo and Julianne Prescott brings you Amityville Thanksgiving, an original horror film with twists and turns that keeps things fresh and interesting. We did not watch the same movie. Loved the performances from the lead actors, and I hear there's now a sequel. There is. Amityville Turkey Day is on Tubi. Mark C. Fullhart knocks it straight out of the park as the very sinister couple therapist Frank DeMonico. There isn't much to do with the actual Amityville house, so if you're a huge fan of this, then this might disappoint you. This is a film that should be studied and film. Go fuck yourself. Maybe for what you don't do in a movie. This it's gonna get 2 stars. I'll give it 2 stars because 2 out of 5 for me because it had some funny parts. Some of the stuff was funny. The line that Frank used earlier, where he told somebody to, where he told the husband to, maybe she wouldn't nag you so much if we just put something in it. She wouldn't run her mouth so much if we put something in it. And a couple of other funny lines, but other than that, this movie obviously had no script, and if it did, it was like a gist of a script or something. I can't tell you. They were stumbling over, like at the beginning, they were stumbling over their lines. They were talking, Frank and when he was talking to either one of the couple, they were stepping on each other's lines, stepping over each other while they're talking. Just a complete fucking mess. Nothing to do with Thanksgiving, nothing to do with Amityville, except that that's where they were. And the shotgun. Nothing. We get to see one kill. And that's barely a kill. And he just tells us about the rest of them. Like this is probably one of there's 3 movies that right now we'll have a contest or something later on. to vote for what you think the worst movie is, because right now there's 3 in the contention, and it's Rollerblade, Killing Tree, and this fucking movie. Don't watch it. Avoid it. I would say avoid it at all costs. If you want to watch it just to see how bad it is for yourself, it's on YouTube. I found it for free on the Kings of Horror channel. Again, if you're going to watch a movie on YouTube, be wary because, again, if the movie does have nudity, it will be edited out. But it's on the Kings of Horror channel. You can really just look up Amityville Thanksgiving on YouTube, and it should pop up. If you'd like, I might even just put the link to it in on the Twitter page or the X page. So keep a lookout there for it. But yeah, this fucking movie, it drained me. This is draining me. This is draining me. This is gonna be So for future episodes, as I said, next month we're gonna do an episode of Shivers next month, maybe the 13th. It'll be a midnight episode that day because the 13th and 14th we are open and I will be working. But the next Shivers episode is going to be on the Dayton Christmas killings. My first venture into true crime on the podcast, so keep a lookout for that. I might even do that after Christmas. You never know. Because there's a bunch of Christmas horror I want to watch. December 6th. Since December 5th is Krampusnacht. We'll do a Krampus movie on the 6th. I'll decide which one. It'll be one of the regular ones, not like Mrs. Krampus or anything. Next week, keep an eye out on the page. I think we're going to start our Christmas horror season next Friday. I know a lot of people will be doing Black Friday with Bruce Campbell, and which is a great movie. It is a great fun movie, but I'm not going to do that one. We'll do something Christmassy. We'll do a Christmas horror next week. But other than that, you guys can find me at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast on Facebook, on on X, and you can email me at bloodybinge@gmail.com for any kind of movie suggestions or episodes of Shivers episode suggestions. Coming up maybe this Wednesday, I've gotta talk to Raz and Matt. Maybe we'll do the Hardcore Heels, the first 3 episodes overall. We'll see what's going on though, because that is the day before Thanksgiving, and it's usually a really busy day for a lot of people. But that's going to be the next episode of Hardcore Heels. Is the first 3 episodes of Monday Night Raw from all the way back in 1993. Also coming up on the podcast, we have a bunch of, like I said, Christmas horror movies, and a bunch of other stuff to go. But you can also find me at Twitch. I haven't been on Twitch in a couple of months, but it's Sewer Dweller 78. You can find me on TikTok at Sewer Dweller. I post a lot of haunt videos and things like that. I'm gonna start doing a little more makeup in that. So, not a list yet, but I am taking recommendations at the email. Especially right now after Christmas is going to be wide open because those are gonna stop being themed towards anything and just be regular horror movies again. I'm a really big fan of Christmas horror, so I'll be watching a lot of that this month. Now that I'm thinking of it, Friday, do you mean that do I have a list that I recommend or that people should recommend to me? Because I can make a list, trust me, and put it on the X page. But there's a lot of stuff coming up that I'm excited for. The Dayton Christmas killings, again, I'm excited for that because it's just such an interesting story. It's basically a story of a bunch of teenagers who are bored on Christmas Eve and essentially go on a fucking rampage. They go on a killing spree. through West Dayton between on Christmas Eve and on Christmas Day. Um, so we'll talk about that again later on. We got a bunch, just so much coming up. But guys, I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. It'll be after Thanksgiving before I see you guys again, unless we do the show on Wednesday. But it'll be after Thanksgiving before I see you guys again on the Bloody Binge. So everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of turkey, eat a lot of ham, eat a lot of whatever you like. And as always, keep watching horror movies. Support the industry. Support the indies, especially. My Christmas, I will give you a Christmas list, but always the original Black Friday, Christmas Evil. If you can find, I know online at on YouTube, there's a bunch of old Tales from the Crypts episode. There's a really good episode with a psycho dressed as Santa Claus. It's like in the first season. That's really good. I'll make a list and put it on the page. Um, but guys, like I said, have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. Be good to each other. And as always, watch more horror. See you guys next week.